It's hump day. That means it is the round table. Welcome to another edition of the round table. I'm Kendrick. That's Chris, who's on the Hornet Express. Jared Hoffman, still team Tiffany, still team Bowie State, still team Asia Wilson and the Aces, though they're down 2 games to none. Looks like they're going to go home, and she can spend a whole bunch of time with Bam Adebayo in the offseason.
Monte.
Monte.
At Monte. Yeah, but we're not getting to that tonight. We're gonna talk football, and other stuff tonight on the roundtable. We always save the final segment of the show for something non-black college sports related, and we got a good one for you tonight that includes a conspiracy theory according to Chris Stevens. Can't wait to hear that one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so week 6, a lot of good football games, and quite honestly, the best football games this weekend are in Division 2. I'm not saying that because we're being watched by Ram Nation right now. I'm saying that because the schedule says it's true. And Jared Hoffman, once again, as he does every week, puts together the 5 games to watch for week 6. And for this week, we got a lot of Division 2 games here and a lot of good ones, starting with Winston-Salem State against Virginia Union, Virginia State against Johnson C. Smith, Savannah State versus Clark Atlanta, FAMU, Alabama State, and then North Carolina Central versus the slumping Campbell Camels. Jared, why these 5 games and which ones kind of stand out to you?
Well, first of all, WSSU Ram Nation, his opinion is not valid here. We do not stand for his opinions after what his Rams did to my Bulldogs, so we're not about to give him that credit. No, I'm just playing. Shout out to WSSU Ram Nation. Speaking of WSSU, they are playing Winston-Salem State they're playing Virginia Union this weekend. That is going to be a crucial game. I misspoke last week. Virginia Union and Virginia State's losses to Johnson C. Smith and Winston-Salem State the previous week did not count as conference games. So Virginia Union's conference opener against, I want to say it was, I'm forgetting who Virginia Union played, but they won their. Oh, it was Shaw. Right. They beat Shaw in what was their actual conference opener, and Virginia State beat Fayetteville State. So they are both 1-0, and Winston-Salem State and Johnson C. Smith are both 2-0. So these are the last 4 remaining undefeated teams in conference play. Winston-Salem State, Virginia Union, Virginia State, and Johnson C. Smith are the last 4 remaining undefeated teams in CIAA play. So these are going to be crucial games in terms of determining who will have the lead at the end of this weekend. I'm excited for these matchups. Virginia Union, obviously led by their running game of Jada Byers and Curtis Allen. They had some injuries go down in the Shaw game. I believe it was Isaac Anderson who went down with an injury in the Shaw game. So we'll see if he's able to play in this one. They had one of their receivers miss a game against Johnson C. Smith. That was a part of why they lost that game. So we'll see how that goes. Dalen Lee is the quarterback for Winston-Salem State. We'll see what he's able to do against that Virginia Union defense, one of the top defensive units in the CIAA. So he'll have a good test on his hands. Virginia State, led by Jamil Williams. Well, both of these teams, Virginia State and Johnson C. Smith, both led by 2 of the top offensive players in Division II football. Virginia State led by running back Jamil Williams, and Johnson C. Smith, who we'll talk about later, is led by quarterback Darius Ocean. I don't know, I was about to say Johnny Ocean. But so 2 of the top offenses in Division II football. This should be a shootout, or it could be a defensive battle. Both of these teams are 2 of the top defensive units in the Division II and in the CIAA. Clark Atlanta, coming off of one of their bigger tests against Lane, overcame a double-digit deficit in the first half to come back and win that one. They will have another test on their hands against Savannah State, who is they're hurting right now. They just come off a shutout loss against Fort Valley State, so they're coming into this game looking for a big win looking to stop Clark Atlanta's run. Technically, Clark Atlanta is still undefeated, 4-0-1. Johnson C. Smith is the only team with an unblemished record, but Clark Atlanta is still undefeated. There's a difference. Unblemished, meaning 5-0 and nothing else. Clark Atlanta is undefeated, but they have a tie on their record, so they're not unblemished. So Clark Atlanta trying to stay undefeated on the season against Savannah State, who is, like I said, coming off that shutout loss against Fort Valley State. Clark Atlanta obviously led by their passing game, David Wright, who, again, we'll talk about a little bit later, and those receivers, Jamal Jones, Armani Harris, and Virgil Young. It's gonna be a lot for Savannah State's defense to have to deal with. So we'll see if Savannah State can put a stop to Clark Atlanta on what has been their best start in a long time in their program's history. Florida A&M returns to the football field against Alabama State. Florida A&M, their game against Alabama A&M last weekend was rescheduled to November, I believe Thanksgiving weekend, due to weather concerns. I believe I don't remember the name of the hurricane that's going on down there. There was concerns down there about playing that game. So that game has been rescheduled, and now they are back on the football field after missing that last week. They are going up against the Alabama State team that averted disaster last weekend against Bethune-Cookman, nearly gave away a 19-point lead, but they squeaked out the win. And Florida A&M, Alabama State, two of the top contenders in the SWAC East. This could determine who comes out the East. Obviously, both teams still have to play Jackson State, but Florida A&M, led by Daniel Richardson at quarterback, and one of his top receivers, Jeremiah Gassett. I hope it's Jeremiah. Apologies.
Jamar
Gassett. My apologies. So those two will look to carve up that Alabama State defense, led by Rico Dozier at linebacker. So we'll see what that Alabama State defense can do against that Florida A&M offense. Florida A&M always seems to make those winning plays and squeak out wins no matter how good or bad they play through the first three quarters. They always find a way to make those plays down the stretch. But we'll see if Alabama State can put a stop to Florida A&M's run. I believe they're on a long winning streak against the SWAC. They have not lost a SWAC game since, I believe, 2022, when they lost to Jackson State 59-3 in that infamous Orange Blossom Classic. So we'll see what Alabama State can do to put an end to Florida A&M's run. And we got North Carolina Central and Campbell. All I have to say about this game is if last year's game between these two teams is any evidence, or if Campbell's game against Delaware State last weekend is any evidence, we are in for a game of the year contender. That last year, North Carolina Central overcame a 3-touchdown deficit and were able to force overtime. And then they were able to, in overtime, Adrian Olivo was able to kick the game-winning field goal the game-winning extra point to win that game in overtime. So that a lot of the players from last year's game is not here this time around, but still a lot of excitement. Walker Harris and Jamari Taylor, who, again, we'll talk about a little bit later. We'll see what they can do against that Campbell team. So, yeah, these are my 5 games that I believe will be some of the best to watch this weekend. And Kendrick is probably dealing with some internet trouble, as usual. So, Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that, but I think for me, the Virginia State game is Johnson C. Smith's last official test. And people are going to say, well, wait, Chris, they still have Fayetteville State. Yes, they still have Winston-Salem State. They can beat both of those teams. That's just my opinion. But Virginia State, meanwhile, this is a team that still has a lot to prove. Again, they were picked to win the CIAA. And they lost at home to a Winston-Salem State team that isn't dominant, but yes, this is their best start since 2017. So we got to give the Rams their due. But this is Johnson C. Smith's final test to prove that they are indeed a CIAA contender. They had I don't want to call it an off week, but when you win a game 42-3, pretty much amounts to an off week. That's what happened against Bluefield State. Damn, Kendrick. And I'm really interested to see the quarterback matchup between Romello Williams and Darius Ocean. Like, these are two of the top 3 passers in the conference. And this is a game that, again, you have a top 5 defense on both sides and a top 5 offense on both sides. So like you said, this is either going to be like 34-32 or maybe even 14-10. It's one of those games where you really can't pick, which side of the coin is going to be on until these two teams get on the field. But that's the game of the weekend for me. Campbell, meanwhile, they're going to give North Carolina Central a challenge. And as I watched that game against Delaware State last week, because of course I'm a Delaware State Hornet, and finally confident in the direction of this Hornet program, hence my subhead. So, I feel like if you needed 44 points to beat Delaware State, you're in trouble against North Carolina Central, because North Carolina Central is, of course, the class of the MEAC at this point, and they proved it last week against Norfolk State, scored 37 points, and it didn't look like they broke much of a sweat doing so. So, if Central's defense shows up, and Trey Oliver this week in the MEAC coaches conference said that Campbell's going to have the biggest offensive line they faced this year, and he just faced Norfolk State's offensive line, which goes about 290, 300 a guy. So if Campbell's is that much bigger, then that might give Central some problems. But I believe that Central has enough offensive weapons. As you mentioned, Mr. Taylor, sophomore receiver Markel Quick, he's starting to emerge as a complementary weapon to Joaquin Davis, because a lot of these schools out of the gate have been double teaming Davis, and then Quick and the tight end Luke Bracey has made some plays as well. Walker Harris got weapons. It's kind of like when Davius Richard had, Mookie Collier the year before and Davis the year before. They've got weapons. So that should be, like you said, Jared, that's going to be a game of the weekend to watch. And Clark Atlanta, I think, is Kendrick back? I think he's coming back. Yeah. Clark Atlanta, there he is. All right. Clark Atlanta, I don't think they're going to have that much trouble with Savannah State. I just haven't seen enough of Savannah State to convince me that David Wright is not going to have one of those games that puts him in the conversation for National Player of the Year, like a 32 of 47 for 505 touchdowns or something along those lines. I feel like that's something that's a stat line that he could conceivably pull off against Savannah State. So those are my 2 games of the weekend. Those are my 3 games of the weekend to watch. I mean, my only thought on Alabama State, honestly, is it is now or never. Like this is their shot. They've climbed the ladder each of the last 2 years. 2022, they were 3rd place in the SWAC East. 2022, they were tied for 2nd with Jackson State. You get the big dog right off top. I mean, not off top. I mean, because they had Bethune-Cookman last week, but they almost gave that game away. And you can't do that against Florida A&M, because if you don't think the Florida A&M is not going to jump on you, you crazy. So I would hope that Alabama State, I think Alabama State is going to be hurt by the quarterback situation again. Feels like they've turned to Zach Sims to be the full-time starter, who's started the last 2 games and played all of the last 2 games, and he's just a freshman. And his number, I mean, I guess you could say the numbers are just a byproduct of a freshman, just learning college football for the first time. But against a team like Florida A&M, you make one mistake, that could turn into 7 or even 14 points. So Alabama State's defense is like with Rico Dozier and those guys, they're going to have to play bigger than they already do. So those are my takes on Week 5's games. And welcome back, Kendrick.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Verizon, too. The game I'm looking at, and Chris just mentioned it, it's the FAMU Alabama State game, and this is, for all intents and purposes, going to decide the SWAC East. Normally for FAMU, it's the first game of the season that does that. But starting off, conference play for them, they hadn't played since September 21st. James Cozy mentioned he don't know how they're gonna come out. He said it looks sharper in practice this past weekend, but the game's a different story. They're gonna play on Alabama State team is really hungry to prove itself, especially without the services of their big time transfer quarterback who's out for the season. So this game right here is going to determine whether or not one of these teams win the SWAC East. Right now, despite the layoff from FAMU, I'm picking them to win this one simply because they got more experience on their side. They have, I think, the better quarterback. Zach Sims is a freshman out there playing, hasn't played in many games at all, especially a game this magnitude. So I don't see how Alabama State wins this. They could be competitive for sure. They got a really good defense, but I think in the day, FAMU just got a little bit more. And they're rested too, which kind of helps. I think they're gonna pull it out. The other game I'm looking at is the Virginia State JCSU game. Another litmus test for them, for the undefeated Golden Bulls. I think since this game is going to be at home, I think they win this one. It's going to be a close one, but they win it. They've just been rolling. Despite what many out there say they haven't played anybody yet, their schedule's soft. If they didn't prove to you how good they were last week, I don't know what else they got to do to prove to you that they're a legit team in the CIAA. And they're going to prove it again against Virginia State.
I think the stigma, excuse me, Kendrick, the stigma behind Johnson C. Smith has been, they played 3 teams that had winless records, but then they go against Virginia Union and they get a win in that one. To me, I'm sold. I was sold by then. I was sold off the first 3 games, but after they beat Virginia Union, I was sold. And they still got some tests coming up. They got Fayetteville State. They got Winston-Salem State. They got Shaw. Even though Shaw lost Virginia Union as bad as they did, they still got Shaw is not going to be an easy out. You still got to play them straight up. You know what I mean? But I want to ask you guys about Florida A&M and Alabama State, because the outlook on that game now is a lot different than what it was before the season started. I would have had Florida A&M winning regardless, but now I'm way more confident now than I was at the start of the season. Do you think that is the Andrew Body thing the only thing that changes the outlook on this game, or would your outlook on this game be any different even if Andrew Body was on this game, based on how you thought about this game at the beginning of the season?
I mean, I think it does, because if you watch the Orange Blossom Classic, the only reason why they even were in the game because of Andrew Body against North Carolina Central. And he brings the element of his legs, which was a tremendous factor in them being in that game, and probably was a tremendous factor in him getting hurt too at the same time. But yeah, like, you have a dynamic dual threat quarterback like that, it changes the entire complexion of the game. And we know that FAMU struggles stopping the run, and you have a quarterback who can run. That definitely would have put a lot of stress on their defense, I think, and it probably would have changed up a lot of our minds about Alabama State's chances, not only in this game, but in the SWAC East in general. So, yeah, I think that was a big loss for sure.
Yeah, I have to agree. I feel like that if Body's healthy, they have a better shot. But you're throwing a freshman out there against the defending Black college national champs. This ain't Miles. This ain't Bethune-Cookman. This is Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, the highest of the 7 hills. They brag different, all that good stuff. And this is a Florida A&M team still with much to prove. I mean, they finally won the whole thing last year, but can they do it again? That is on everybody's mind, and they're going to come into Montgomery guns a-blazing. So if that defense can't find a way to keep Richardson and Gassett and those running backs from getting loose, then it's going to be a long day. But even if they do, I'm just not sure that Sims has enough experience to make the plays that Alabama State offense is going to need made to win that game. But stranger things have happened. I mean, it's already been a wild season of Black college football, and we're not even to the halfway point yet. We're getting there, but before we reach the halfway point, we've seen some shenanigans each week. So maybe this game be a game full of shenanigans that helps the Hornets. Who knows?
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because before the season started, I thought Florida A&M could win this game, will win this game. But I thought Alabama State was going to be much more competitive than they have been in years past because of Andrew Body and because of that defense. After the Orange Blossom Classic, I didn't look at Alabama State the same way I did before the season started. I didn't think that they had as much of a chance as I thought they did to win the SWAC. I picked Florida A&M to begin the season, and after the Orange Blossom Classic, I was much more confident about that pick because, like you guys said, the 2 quarterback thing was not working, and I didn't think they were going to go away from it, even if Andrew Body was still healthy. I think that they were still going to do the 2 quarterback thing, maybe not the Eastern Illinois kid, but maybe the guy that they're playing now, that they would do the 2 quarterback thing with him also. So I didn't think that they were going to change their offense depending on if Andrew Body was there or not. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't see anything from that Orange Blossom Classic that made me think that they would have a better shot in this game against Florida A&M now, or if or to win the SWAC in general. You know, to me, it wouldn't have mattered if Andrew Body was in the game because of what I saw from that Orange Blossom Classic, and that just completely changed my perspective, what I came into the season with, because I actually looked at them and said that they could win 8 games. And after that Orange Blossom Classic, I didn't think they were going to win 6. So maybe you guys are right that the Andrew Body thing was the ultimate decider, but their hopes of winning this game are bleak to me. But that's why you play the game, because perspectives change all the time. So.
Yeah, it's not like FAMU has just run roughshod with teams either this season. As we all know, the opening game of the season in MEAC Squad Challenge, they were down by 14 points to Norfolk State, who we think is probably a pedestrian football team. They should have lost to South Carolina State the next week, despite the fact they had a first-year coach, despite the fact he had 14 Division II transfers on the team. And then they get the only 2 losses they had so far has been the FBS schools, Miami being one of them, a top 10 team, and then lost to the South Florida, a mid-major FBS team. So yeah, like Florida A&M got a lot to prove in their own right if they can play a complete game still under James Cozy, but I think they win this one pretty comfortably on Saturday.
Yeah, but I think that's been their MO since last season. They know how to overcome adversity, and we haven't seen Alabama State be able to do that. We've seen Florida A&M be able to do that. That's why I said that. That's why my perspective on this game has changed, because I've seen Florida A&M overcome adversity. I haven't seen Alabama State do it. So this is their chance to do it, though.
Yeah, I mean they can. But I just got a feeling like them Florida A&M being off for 2 of the last 3 weeks, getting rested up, getting some guys healthy. I think this is probably going to be the best game they played so far, I think, in my opinion. But we'll see, though. Anything can happen in the SWAC for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So moving on, another topic I want to get to, something that we wrote on our website. You can check it out right now. An early look at the Deacon Jones Award candidates for the first half of the season, at least. I know it's early, but still, you know, there's still time, but we can get the conversation started right now. Jared, you wrote today your top 5 contenders for that award, and they include Jada Byers, the running back for Virginia Union, Darius Ocean, the quarterback for JCSU, Daniel Richardson, the quarterback for FAMU, Jamari Taylor, the running back for North Carolina Central, and David Wright, the quarterback for Clark Atlanta. And we got a little bit this on Monday talking about, you know, who are some of the players right now who's kind of standing out, who could win the Deacon Jones Award. We really couldn't come up with anybody that kind of like was far and away kind of like the best player in black college football so far. So I tasked Jared to think about it for a minute and come up with his own list, and this is what he came up with. So Jared, why these 5 guys, and who do you think is right now the leader of the pack so far?
Well, let me answer that second question, because that's the easiest part. David Wright. It's David Wright. That wasn't the hard for me. The thing that was difficult for me was thinking of somebody from Division I that I think could potentially win it. But I think it's no question to me that David Wright is the leader of the clubhouse. You know, obviously there hasn't been one since Amir Hall from the Bowie State University, of course. But I think David Wright is just having one of the most incredible seasons we've seen through 5 games in a long time. You know, he's already at about 1,500 passing yards, has about 16 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. Is second in Division II in passing yards and passing touchdowns. That Fort Valley State game in the season opener was one of the most electric performances I have probably seen in a long time, especially since I've been here at HBCU Sports. You know, so I think there's no question he is the leader of the clubhouse. But that does not mean that these other guys don't have their own respective cases. Jamari Taylor was tasked with, taking over as the number one running back for North Carolina Central, with Davius Richard being gone, with Mookie Collier being gone, and he has lived up to expectations. He's currently has over 400 rushing yards right now, has 7 touchdowns, 7 of his team's 9 rushing touchdowns this season, and has taken the load of being the workhorse back. He's got 87 carries on the team, and the next closest person has 17 carries. So that's the kind of load he's had on his shoulders, and he has, guided that North Carolina Central team to being one of the top offenses in the FCS. And I think he could have a potentially good case. Jada Byers is closing in on being Virginia Union's all-time leading rusher and is on pace to have his 3rd straight 1,000-yard rushing season. Could have been 4. He had 920 in his first season with Virginia Union, and is having another banner season this year. Has about 500 rushing yards. Started the season off with 211 against Kentucky State. Jada Byers is Jada Byers. If you know anything about Virginia Union and Jada Byers, then you know that he has been one of, if not the best, running backs in Division II football in the past 2 or 3 seasons. So I think he will be there in the mix. Darius Ocean has been the unsung hero of that Johnson C. Smith offense. Obviously, Brevin Caldwell has started off scoring all 6 of the team's receiving touchdowns this year, but Darius Ocean, his contributions and his efficiency has been spectacular for Johnson C. Smith. 10 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. He's the only Division II quarterback, the only quarterback in all of Division II with 100 pass attempts and no interceptions. No, knock on wood that doesn't change this weekend, but he has been incredibly efficient, completing over 60% of his passes, and it's just guided that Johnson C. Smith offense like we're hoping that they would do in order to become contenders. The way that we look at Morgan State and say that they're a quarterback away, the way that we look at Alabama State and say they're a quarterback away, we said the same thing about Johnson C. Smith, and they have their quarterback, and they are rolling right now. And Daniel Richardson, this could have easily been Jamari Gassett too, but I say Daniel Richardson because of the narrative, which is that the last 4 have been SWAC quarterbacks. Jeremy Musso co-won it with Davius Richard last season. Shador, before he went to Colorado, won it in 2022. And then Aquil Glass won it in 2021 and the 2020 spring season. So the voters obviously look at the SWAC and see that as the pinnacle of HBCU football. And Daniel Richardson is arguably the best offensive player in HBCU football right now. And I believe that if he continues on his trajectory, obviously he's had 280 plus yards in each of his 2 games against FCS opponents. So there's a great chance that if he continues this trajectory, that he will be in the mix for that award. So right. But right now, I think, Amir did win it twice, but I'm saying he was the last Division II player to win it. But so if he continues on his trajectory, he will have a chance to be in that mix. But for me right now, there's no question it's David Wright.
Yeah, what say you, Chris, about who you think is a favorite right now after 5 weeks of the regular season?
I can't find fault with a guy who has had an explosive season to the level that David Wright has this year. Like, I don't know what else can be said about this young man that we haven't talked about already. He's quick on his feet. Of course, he has a howitzer for an arm, and he finds his guys, and he has 3 good guys to find. I mean, when you have Jamal Jones, you have Amani Harris, and Virgil Young, who also runs back kicks and punts for Clark Atlanta. So he's got some weapons. And he knows how to find them. I mean, what good are the weapons if you can't find them? And David Wright, the third, definitely knows how to find them. So he's my clubhouse leader at the moment. I mean, Daniel Richardson has had a phenomenal start for Florida A&M, but we got to see how he does as SWAC play rolls along. Jamari Taylor, he's definitely the Swiss Army knife of that North Carolina Central offense, but it's so rare that a running back ever wins these awards. I mean, we joke all the time that running backs are, they don't even win, they rarely win MVP awards anymore. So, they don't usually win Offensive Player of the Year in college either. And I think Ocean start once again. I'll knock on wood as well to make sure he doesn't throw a pick this weekend. But it's just the fact that David Wright III has just put up such astronomical numbers that it's just hard to overlook and say that there's a better offensive player in Black college football than David Wright III at this moment. So he's my leader as well.
Yeah, I mean, like these are a lot of great players we have here. And I think since it's a quarterback award, it probably goes to one of the quarterbacks, probably Danny Richardson because he plays in Division One. And it's a shame to say that, but it's just true as Jared laid out. The last 4 winners have all been from the SWAC. But I want to give some love to like the guys on the other side of the ball in defense. This is normally an offensive award, so the defensive guy probably won't win it. But Kenny Gallup leads the FCS in tackles. He's the defensive back. That's probably not a good thing to be a defensive back leading tackles. So that means your frontline defense is not that good. But yeah, like he leads the FCS in tackles. Actually, his teammate Noah Miles is tied for 8th in sacks in the FCS. Talk about the heck of a defense Howard got. And Joshua Nobles down state, he's tied for 10th in sacks with 5. So those are a couple of defensive guys who stand out. But just based on where the voting goes so far, it's gonna be one of the quarterbacks. And I think right now, if the season ended today, it'll probably go to I think Daniel Richardson because he plays Division One quarterback. It's kind of strange we hadn't talked about Miles Crawley, who actually leads the SWAC in passing in yards and touchdowns, but he hasn't really played consistently enough to be considered, I think, in our eyes, to be the best player in Black college football as of yet. And Mickey Joseph talked about today, and Chris actually wrote about it, that they're trying to fix their offense right now to be a little bit more efficient and protect Miles Crawley. But even his performance really hadn't stood out this season, despite the fact he got good numbers for yards and touchdowns. But yeah, I think it's between Wright and Daniel Richardson for family who's going to win this award.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, Crawley would probably have to put on an incredible run, and it's it's tough because when your coach is talking about you need 2 more guys than the 5 that are actually, I don't want to say paid, obviously, but brought in to protect you, then you have some problems. So it's all in how Grambling finishes to me, honestly. I mean, they got a week off this week. Coach Joseph said he wants to work on some things, accountability and all of that. And then they have Alcorn coming into a Robinson Stadium on the 12th. So they get a test right out of the bye. So we'll find out just how good this Grambling State team is and if Miles Crawley is ready to make that star turn. But to me, it's David Wright. I'm Division II or not, like the numbers just don't lie. I mean, they beat a Division I team. Came from 27 down to do it, mind you. So, I mean, this isn't like, he's a flash in the pan. He did it at Allen. He did it at Clark. And I guess if Teddy Keaton goes somewhere else after this year, he'll probably do it there too. So, there's a lot to like about David Wright III. I feel like he should be the clubhouse leader, but Dan Richardson absolutely has had a great year also. But we have to see how he plays as the SWAC season rolls along.
Yeah, I want to talk about Kendrick bringing up the defensive players. I think we've seen some of the most dominant defensive seasons over the past couple of years. You got James Houston and Aubrey Miller, with Jackson State a couple of years ago. Bowie State folks will remember the name Jonathan Ross from a couple of years ago, who had a dominant season during the 2021 season when Bowie State went on their playoff run. Luber Danellis and Jaden Brogdon for Benedict the past 2 years when they went on their undefeated run. We've seen some of the most dominant defensive seasons, but the voters, they just tend to look at the offensive players and say these guys are the patriarch of their teams. So it's hard to overcome some of the offensive performances that have won it in years past. Obviously Shador absolutely deserved it when he won it. Aquil Glass was absolutely incredible. Look at his numbers. They were incredible, and it's hard to overcome that. I forgot Jordan Lewis a couple of years ago in the 2020 spring season could have warranted winning that award, but Aquil led Alabama A&M to their first SWAC championship in a long time. So we've seen so many dominant defensive seasons, and nobody has just gotten the recognition yet. I don't know what it'll take for a defensive player to win it when we've seen so many dominant defensive seasons. Realistically, you really got to look at it realistically and say that it's either a quarterback or a running back who does something so astronomical that it can't be disputed. Tariq Cohen, when he won the inaugural one, he put up astronomical numbers that still stand in MEAC history to this day. So it will take something extraordinary for a defensive player to win it and for a quarterback not to win it. And to me, David Wright is having an extraordinary season, and it will take an extraordinary collapse. Again, don't want that to happen, but it will take an extraordinary collapse for him to not win that award.
Yeah, but for me, like with Wright, the thing he won't have an advantage of is playing in these big time games. Like Darren Richardson this weekend is going to play against Alabama State. Then he's going to play against Jackson State, probably going to play in a SWAC championship game, and then possibly a Celebration Bowl. Like those are like big time games. You can like really prove like your mettle and prove how great you are. And as good as Wright has been, he won't get to play on stages that big throughout the rest of the season. His games won't be nationally televised in the same manner that FAMU's will be. So a lot of voters who had the opportunity to see him in those big time games. I think him playing so well the first weekend of the season obviously helped. And I also think him playing so well against Bethune-Cookman, their comeback win help. But like, what other games on a big stage is going to be able to prove himself in the same way these other guys are going to be? And I think at the end of the day, that's probably going to hurt him the most. That's everybody in stunned silence with that one.
Oh no! I was looking at the comment section. They just keep spamming that Amir one too. I went to Bowie. I know.
Yeah, maybe
there might be a user error.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm just joking.
It might be a user error on that one. Yeah, but it should be fun. Maybe somebody who's not listed here or shown here will emerge later on in the season. But these are the folks we think are right now in the running and should be contenders for that award. So we're gonna right now shift away from all the football talk. We broke down some games. We done broke down an award, and now we're gonna get to our roundtable non-sports topic, and that's gonna be it starts off with a passing of the late John Amos from Good Times fame. He was in also Coming to America 1 and 2. He was in a lot of great Black movies, great Black sitcoms as well. And so we're going to take a moment to talk about our favorite Black sitcoms of all time, our top 5, as someone in the media would say, sitcoms that we know and love. And Chris Stevens has a conspiracy theory regarding the late John Amos. Chris, what is on your mind with that?
Well, James Evans Sr. was the pinnacle of Black fatherhood in the mid-70s when he starred on Good Times, as you can see the gentleman on the screen, and his wife, Florida Evans, played by the late Esther Rolle. But if you notice on Good Times, whenever James would try to get them out of the ghetto, they were in the Cabrini Green projects in Chicago, Illinois, which is the site of one of the greatest Black movies ever filmed, Cooley High. And, that's how the same person that wrote Cooley High actually developed the script for Good Times. That was Mr. Eric Monty. So when Good Times was pretty much continuation of Cooley High, but yes, whenever James would try to get them out of Cabrini Green, Florida would let her religious shenanigans stop them from getting out. So when James Evans went to work on that big job in Mississippi, he did not die. James Evans faked his death and married a big, pretty-legged woman named Anna Mae down there in Mississippi and lived happily ever after. So no, James Evans did not die. He faked his death. to get away from Florida Evans. That is my hot take. That is my conspiracy theory. The doors of the church are now open to jump on me as you please. But that is my
yes, please. I'm gonna start. Like, why would you think he would leave his wife and beautiful children to go to Mississippi of all places? No offense to Mississippi, but like, why would he do that?
You went to college in Mississippi. You can't say that. So, but
I said no offense.
But Florida was annoying. I'm sorry. And JJ James Jr. He didn't have the sense that, as my grandmother used to say, he ain't got the sense that God gave a goose. Michael was too damn militant, and Thelma, who's still Bernadette Stannis is Thelma Evans is probably still one of the top 5 finest women to ever grace the television screen on a black television show. Let's put that out there right now. But Thelma was just there. Michael was too militant. JJ was slow, and Florida was just too churchy. Like James, he was like, "This is my chance. This is my shot. I'm going to go to Mississippi. I'm going to make this job the best job I've ever had." He goes down there. He meets a woman that doesn't nag him. She got the grits ready. She got the bacon ready. She got the waffles on. She got a waffle iron. A waffle iron for 1976 was probably pretty damn high technological standard, if you ask me. So he said, "I'm not going back to Chicago. Tell them I died." And that's what he did. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he had access to one of those, WWE style dummies that they used to use whenever the Undertaker would have a casket match. I don't know, but he probably sent one of those dummies to Chicago and said, "Just tell him I died, man. Whatever. I'm happier down here in Mississippi." So yes, James Evans faked his death to get away from Florida Evans. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I think you may be onto something, because there was an episode or series of episodes when Thelma was dating. I forgot what the guy's name was, but like he was a pro football like prospect, whatever it was. He was gonna play for Chicago Bears, and then he like tore his ACL, broke his leg, something like that, and couldn't play football again. They were about to get out the ghetto, and he broke his leg and couldn't play football again. It was at that point James was like, "If that don't work, I gotta leave." And you may be right, Chris.
Hey man, and I can't remember Buddy's name. He the actor, I think he passed away not too long ago, Keith Powers. I can't remember his name on the show, but no, his name was Ben Powers. His football name was Keith, so his name on the show was Keith. But yeah, the actor was Ben Powers. But yeah, if a dude, I mean, but let's be real about this. Should Thelma have really been dating a guy that was going to play pro football? Because I mean, Thelma was 17 on the show, so that means that dude was like 21 or 22. So,
hey man, you got to suspend disbelief, man.
Maybe so, but yeah, if the football player ain't your way out, if your churchy wife won't let you bend the rules a little bit to get y'all out of the ghetto, it's like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna go to Mississippi and live my best life afterwards. So that's what James did.
Yeah, man, I find it awfully ironic that like everybody, well, not everybody, but like a lot of people laughed at the misery of Black people trying to get out the ghetto. Made a whole show around it. Yeah, that was something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jared, your thoughts on Chris's conspiracy theory and your top 5 Black sitcoms?
Hey man, if y'all like it, I love it. That wasn't even gonna be my hot take about Good Times. My hot take is that Dynamite is the most overrated running gag of all time.
Oh God, yes.
That I don't even think that's a hot take. That is the most annoying running gag ever. When I was a kid, it was fun to say. When you get older, nobody want to hear no Dynamite. But I think that James Evans was the template for what a Black father on TV should be. You know, a hardworking man willing to do whatever it takes to take care of your family. Like he was the template before there was Carl Winslow, before there was Uncle Phil, before there was, who were some other ones? Michael Kyle from My Wife and Kids. Before there was any of those fathers, it was James Evans. You know what I mean? And He was just tough as nails, but fair. And he had that comedic side to him to where it was like he wasn't always too serious. You know what I mean? So like I think he was, and I don't even know, I don't even look at him and I see that role. When I look at him, I look at Coming to America, because Coming to America was that was my first exposure to him. Also when he was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and he was Lisa's father, you know, so those are my, when I think of him, I think of those. But in terms of my top 5 sitcoms, I got 2 qualifications for what I think of great sitcoms, and that's overall funny and real world perspective. When it comes to overall funny, there is no show funnier than Martin. No show whatsoever. The CD player scene, what's the name of the movie? New Jack City, right?
Yes.
The
yes.
New Jack City scene, there is no scene in TV history funnier than that. And they's talking about they wanted a real dog. No, it would not have been as funny with a real dog than when he had that fake dog, and he made Thomas Michael Ford, God rest his soul, he made him break live on TV with that dog barking in his face. And then he put the dog down and said, sit. And then when the dog fell down, he goes, lay. I was done. So when it comes to overall funny, there's no show better than Martin. The second funniest of all time, My Wife and Kids. My Wife and Kids deserve more respect when it comes to funny sitcoms. The Wayans family rarely ever misses, and they did not miss whatsoever with My Wife and Kids. I ain't gonna lie, Jay and Michael Kyle wasn't the best parents. They let them kids do whatever, but it was funny nonetheless. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. Another funny sitcom, Everybody Hates Chris. Love Everybody Hates Chris. Love that it's now a cartoon. Just Rochelle, like seeing Tashina Arnold's revolution from Martin to My Wife and Kids is one of the greatest. And then Tiffany Campbell going from Martin to My Wife and Kids, then her being Peaches on Everybody Hates Chris. I love that. Paige Hurd, like in terms of real world perspective, there's no show that was better at giving you a real world perspective to me than A Different World. A Different World made a lot of people want to go to college. It made you look at it made you look at issues like, trigger warning for what I'm about to say, date rape and racism, just looking at the world from a different perspective. You know, the LA race riots episode where, you know, they were coming back from their honeymoon and they were counted, you know, that whole situation. And not for nothing, it had its funny moments every once in a while. But to me, there was no show to me that blended the funniness and the addressing the real world issues better together than Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there's no show that how can a show be that funny, but then they address issues like, you know, when Carlton got shot, or when Carlton learned that there was a such thing as corrupt police, or when Will got shot defending Carlton, or you know, when Will was taking drugs and to keep himself up so he can keep up with schoolwork and work and stuff like that. Like, or when they addressed that, like Uncle Phil when he had the heart attack, and, you know, addressing things like taking care of your diet and all that type of stuff. But then you got the funny, actual funny running gags like throwing Jazz out the house. Like, still funny to this day. Or Hillary actually doing the airhead character and it actually being funny because she's this rich ditzy girl that, you know what I mean? Like, and Jeffrey with his snide comments, just like Jeffrey was one of the most underrated parts of why Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was so great. So that's that. I think that would probably be my top 5. What just the actually a different world is just like one that has a great real world perspective. That's not actually in my top 5. What's in my top 5 and one of the most underrated sitcoms of all time, Wayans Brothers. Again, they don't miss. They don't miss. John Witherspoon, God rest his soul. They tried to say that the network TV wasn't going to pick it up had they not gotten Pops. I'm so glad that they stuck to their guns and gotten John Witherspoon as Pops on that show, because he is a fool and a half. Marlon and Sean, specifically Marlon, is just wild and funny, just hilarious. Like, so I think that would probably be my top 5. Martin, My Wife and Kids, Everybody Hates Chris, Wayans Brothers, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Chris, you can go ahead. I think you gave yours there, Chris.
Yeah, because I had to drop the conspiracy theory on y'all real quick.
Yeah.
I agree with Jared 100% on Martin, but I love Martin for a different reason. The traffic episode.
Oh my god!
Because there's only one line. There's only 3 letters that people need to hear, and then it automatically just sets everybody off.
Oh my god!
Rest in peace, Thomas Michael Ford. Tom,
hold on. I'm gonna set you up. All right. So, sir, it says GTD in here. What does that mean? What? No. What? Hold on. We didn't hear you. What does GTD stand for?
I just said, go to draw.
Hey, man, we are in a courtroom. We are trying to get this done. We can't hear you, Your Honor. You're gonna have to make him speak up. What does GTD stand for?
Got the draws, okay? I got the draws.
Oh, I love that scene.
The crazy part is Martin picks up the court telephone. He's like, I'm saying he just pulled it out and everything. And the judge is like, Mr. Payne. And he's like, yeah, he got the draws.
And then Tommy actually pulled out some draws and was high-fiving people. Oh, my God.
Incredible. So Martin's in my top 5. I'm going to go a different way with the Wayans brothers, because obviously we know that Damon Wayans' character, Michael Kyle, was brilliant on My Wife and Kids. Sean and Marlon Williams on the Wayans Brothers was great. But I'm going to go all the way back to the original. And it probably doesn't count as a sitcom because it was more of a sketch comedy. But In Living Color is probably one of the most 5 influential television shows in the history of the medium. It set the template for Black entertainment from the 1990s on the way up to today. And a lot of those characters are ones that you cannot get away with now.
And also influenced the Super Bowl halftime show too.
Oh yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
That, the Super Bowl was so embarrassed by In Living Color, chumping them during the halftime show. They said bring in Michael Jackson, and then we've had a halftime performance from a major mega superstar every year since. But the characters on In Living Color, you couldn't get away with now. You couldn't get away with the handyman. You couldn't get because disability is something that we all should take very seriously. You could never get away with the effeminate, gay portrayal of Blaine and Antoine. I mean, we laughed at it as kids. We would imitate it a lot. 2 snaps in a circle, tell a friend, and all of that. You can't get away with that now, and it's for good reason that you can't get away with that. But In Living Color absolutely pushed the envelope. I mean, you had a derelict fire marshal, Jim Carrey. I'm not going to say nobody knew who Jim Carrey was, but Jim Carrey absolutely took off thanks to In Living Color and Fire Marshal Bill. Hey, let me show you something. You can't, the Wayans brothers in Living Color was just like, again, one of the most top 5 influential shows in history to meet him. That's number 2. Number 3 is absolutely Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You have Will, this street kid coming from West Philadelphia. He gets banked on the basketball court. His mom said, I can't have you around this environment. You're going to live with my sister and her judge husband in Bel-Air. And I think my favorite episode, because I relate to it, is the father episode with Ben Vereen. And that was the first time in my life that I had seen somebody who had dealt with the things that I had dealt with, coming from a single parent home, being raised by my mom. And, that scene at the end when Will want me, there are a lot of Black children, men and women, who can kind of relate to an absent father putting them through the ringer. So as Jared said, that balance of real life and comedy is just unbeaten. I think my favorite comedic moment on that show was not even really a comedic moment, is when Will and Carlton get beat by the pool sharks. And Phil comes down to the pool hall and says, Jeffrey, break out Lucille. And he just whoops everybody's ass on that table. Like James Avery, God rest his soul, man. One of the greatest characters and one of the greatest people to ever live.
Man, I'm a soul man.
My man was grooving with that pool stick in his hand. So that's 3. Number 4. I'm gonna go with Living Single, because you had one of the first real ensemble casts, even though the 2 major draws at that time were already known. The other 3 that were they would become stars because of the show, but you already had Queen Latifah, who was a megastar as a rapper. You had Kim Fields, who was a sitcom veteran, from The Facts of Life. And then, of course, you bring in, T.C. Carson, Erica Alexander, who was Cousin Pam on The Cosby Show, and Kim Coles, who was on the first season of In Living Color. She was 1 season only. She was only on the first season, so yes. And then to round out my top 5, it's absolutely a different world. If a lot of kids, a lot of black kids saw cool black kids in college at a black college and said, that's where I want to be. That is what is calling me. And even though it wasn't, the greatest, and I mean, I don't even know if you could technically call A Different World a sitcom. I mean, it was scheduled. I mean, it was slated as such. But the fact that it just inspired generations of young black kids to go to college and go to an HBCU, it's incredible. And yeah, we Kendrick already put that up on the screen. But yes, it's important to note that JJ's artwork on Good Times was done by Ernie Barnes, who who played football at North Carolina Central, and also that painting that you see at the beginning of the Good Times episode was also the basis for the cover of Marvin Gaye's greatest album, I Want You. So if you haven't listened to I Want You, do yourself a favor. Once you get past the artwork, because the artwork is incredible. Ernie Barnes' artwork was just like next level. But yeah, go listen to Marvin Gaye's I Want You if you haven't heard that album yet. So Kendrick, your top 5. You're on mute.
Damn, I went a whole 3 weeks without being on mute. Dang,
you were doing so good.
Streak is over. I know, man. I know. Yeah, but y'all done took a couple of mine. I definitely was gonna say Martin. Yeah, that's an all-time great show. Ricky Fontaine, Pretty Ricky, what they called him. Yeah, that episode was funny. Then he gets knocked out by Thomas the Hitman Hearns and how those big ass bumps on around his face.
Oh yeah,
that was
funny. I don't want to fight.
Yeah, that was funny too. Yeah, that was funny too. Obviously, A Different World is one that I never really thought of it as a sitcom. It was more like a serious show about black youth being in college and being in black colleges and trying to survive the college life around all these issues of the day. It had its funny moments to me, but it was more like Jerry said, a lot more real world issues than anything. Am I allowed to say The Cosby Show? Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say it.
I mean,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Separate the art from the person.
All right, cool. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. I love the episode when they find out that Vanessa's been partying in Baltimore.
Big fun with the ratchet.
With the ratchet in Baltimore. Yeah, that episode was funny. And then when Rudy plays football for the first time, and then Sandra gets upset because she's like, why are they tackling her? Why don't they let her take turns tackling her? Why don't we use all the money that we donate in the pro sports and give it to ballet? And then Bill Cosby's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking? And then obviously the Gordon Gartrell episode where Theo tries to get this shirt made for the school dance. Yeah, his sister make it, and the sleeves are uneven. But at the end of the show, the girl he wants to impress likes the shirt anyway. Yeah, and Fresh Prince obviously is in the top 5 too for me. But I'm gonna go way back because I have older parents, and when I was a kid, not in school or was sick, they would always watch these old black sitcoms, and one of them was Sanford and Son. And Sanford and Son will always be in my top 5. Red Fox was a dirty old man, but he was a funny old man too at the same time. I could watch like
dummy.
I could watch him and Aunt Esther just go back and forth with each other all day long.
When he told her he was going to put her face in some dough and make gorilla cookies. Oh my God. It was, I mean,
he had the insults.
Sanford and Son, yeah. I mean, if James Evans was the black father that people wanted to, aspire to, Fred Sanford was the one that a lot of black people in the 70s had, pretty much.
Yeah.
When you think about guys like Fred Sanford, Junkman and Watts come from St. Louis, is a widow, won't let his son grow up. I mean, Lamont couldn't get no play because of his father. Like Lamont, I don't think it's fair to call Lamont the original scrub because his dad would never let him do anything. Like this was a dude that every time he would go on a date, Fred was talking about, you going to leave the empire behind when it's really just a bunch of old junk. But
it's Lamont's fault for living with his dad, though. It's Lamont's fault.
He was trying to get out, Kendrick. He was trying to get out, but Fred wouldn't let him. And Fred was pretty much Black Archie Bunker. I never get that time, the Julio took them out, to a Latino restaurant. He was just being so racist. And Julio was like, "Oh, I got something for you." So they started drinking this wine or whatever. And it's this real good wine. And Fred is just like knocking it back. And Fred says, "Say, Julio, what does sangria mean?" He said, "It means blood." And Fred spits this shit out. Oh my God, excuse me. spits the wine out, and it looks like he's gonna have the big one right there in the restaurant. I mean, it was just one of those moments where it was like, all right, Fred, you got to taste your own medicine. But yeah, Sanford and Son, also one of the greatest theme songs ever, conducted by Quincy Jones, the Street Beater. Dun, 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 dun. Like that melody.
Everybody knows that song.
That melody plays in my head.
Even somebody like me that didn't watch the show, and I know that theme song when it comes on.
That melody plays in my head at least 2 or 3 times a day. But yeah, Sanford and Son is a great choice.
Another honorable mention. I got to throw another honorable mention in there. Jamie Foxx show for one episode.
I was going to say that one too.
Episode only.
I already know.
Traffic Court episode is one of the fun. Oh my gosh, that track when that man runs over and slides and almost falls, and you see everybody in the background about to laugh, and he keeps that seriousness. Oh man, that episode. And then he got him in the push-up position. He was like, "What do you think? I will not be speaking." Oh
yo, Mark Curry had his own sitcom, of course, hanging with Mr. Cooper, but he absolutely stole that Traffic Cop episode of the Jamie Foxx show.
Mark Curry, he steals every scene that he's in. He was always
the original Golden State Warrior, the original Splash Brother.
Yep.
Yeah, he go 100% from the field in every sitcom he appeared in. He was always funny, man.
My favorite Jamie Foxx episode is the one where Jamie and Braxton are living together and they have the dance off. And Braxton he pulls out the big gun. He has the beatbox, he has the Michael Jackson jacket, and then he pulls the he punches the glass and breaks out the glove, and he beats Jamie with the glove, and he's like, "Who's bad?" And Jamie's like, "You bad." It's just one of those funny moments that you just replay over and over again. So yeah, we've had some good television shows, man. I don't know what happened to TV today, but back in the day, we had some good stuff.
There's so much that we didn't say either. We didn't say the Parkers. Yeah. We didn't say Moesha. We didn't say.
Oh, I got a quick hot take about Moesha. Frank Mitchell is the worst black dad in television history.
I ain't gonna lie. You might.
Oh no.
That dude slut shamed Moesha every chance he got. And every chance he got, he was just not a good father to that girl, man. I mean, granted, she was very, she was ungrateful when he presented her with the little Volkswagen. I mean, yeah, Frank Mitchell Saturn was the thing. He could have got her a Saturn, but you don't want to get your baby a brand new car. You don't. I mean, not every kid deserves a brand new car because I mean, some kids can't drive over a doggone. I mean, I see it every day here in these Delaware streets. But yeah, you know, Frank Mitchell, for my opinion, is the worst black dad in television history. Like that dude was just so up Mo's behind she couldn't even breathe. That's why she ended up, you know, rebelling as much as she did.
Yeah, but yeah, I ain't got much to say. He was a bit. When you talk about overprotective fathers, like he went a lot overboard with it. Now, yes, Moesha rebelled, and you know she was with Q and all the other guys that she dated and stuff like that. But like it's because like he was basically over her shoulder every chance he got. So like yeah, but it was still a good show though. You know, that's basically what got Kim her own show on the Parkers. You know, like what's some like Steve Harvey's show was pretty good. Dang, there's so many in my head. That's a Raven technically is a black sitcom, even though she said she won't want to be black. But anyway, like I think we've been spoiled with so much great black television in the past. And even if you want to go current, the more current ones, Blackish. And we got Abbott Elementary now that's working its way up to being one of my favorites. Can't wait for the season to start on that one. I think it starts next Wednesday. I'll have that on the DVR. But
Insecure was great too.
Insecure was great.
I think that might be the best representation of, you know, the modern black experience for the most part. You know, I mean, there was just so much about that show that just touched all people. I mean, people debated it on Twitter every doggone week. So I mean, when you have that sort of reach. Oh yeah, Amanda brings up sister. Shouts out to my favorite,
yes,
my favorite twin, Tia Mowry. God bless. Whew, respectfully, with all due respect. Shouts out to Mark Jackson, but yes, with all due respect, Tia Mowry. Hi.
Yeah, but that Insecure was really good, bro. When she kicked that baby, oh my God. Kobe. Oh my God, that was fun. Man. I did not see that coming.
No, nobody did. That's what made it so damn fun.
Nobody did. Yeah. Yeah, man. But TV was great back then. It's good now. I want to say like anything right now that you watch on TV is going to be legendary. Like we'll talk about it like 50 years down the road. I was talking to my wife today. I was like, you know, one day we're going to see Megan Thee Stallion doing commercials about reverse mortgages. And she was like, why would you say that? Why would you say that? I'm like, because it's true. Like Tom Selleck, who was a star of the 80s, he's now doing commercials hawking reverse mortgages. That's going to be Megan Thee Stallion in 20 years or 30 years. He'll be doing reverse mortgages. If houses even exist anymore.
A lot of the black television shows we got now are mainly just dramas. Now we don't have many black sitcoms. We got Power.
It's reality TV pretty much.
Yeah, it's not even. Basically, it's all subscribe. You got to subscribe to all of them because they're either on Showtime, they're on HBO.
I lost track of the Power universe. The final season of the original when Tommy shot Angela, I was like, okay, this is too convoluted for me. So I can't tell you what happened with Book 2. I can't tell you what happened with Ghost. I can't tell you what happened with, you know, Raising Kanan. None of it.
I don't know if this will get my black card taken, but I've never seen an episode of Power. Never seen an episode.
And the first couple seasons was but then all of a sudden it just started to get a little too, you know, a lot of the loose ends that were tied up just didn't make any damn sense. And like I said, when Tommy shot Angela, I was like, yeah, I'm good. This don't make no sense.
Sure. What was that show with Terrence Howard and
Empire?
Empire.
I lost track of Empire after the second season.
I tapped out on that when Lucius caught amnesia. Like anybody who's watched Empire for as long as Empire was on, they remember when Lucius caught amnesia. I said, okay, I'm done. This is to quote the legendary Detroit icon Ha Davis. This is beyond me. I'm done. Like
I tapped out when he killed his childhood friend and they just buried him and just went on.
Malik Yoba.
Yeah, Malik Yoba. when they killed him and they just buried him, Like
bury that man loose, as they say on Twitter. Bury him
and she
loose.
was the thing that I didn't get was she was clearly defending her husband when she hit him with that vase. And the only thing that stopped him from calling the police and telling them that he was killed was that she was pregnant. What does that mean? Like, I get it. You don't want to risk, like, but y'all could have easily got y'all story together and said, I was just defending them. They were having a fight. And I just did it to help them. What you think they're going to be like? Oh, she was pregnant when that happened. Guilty. Life in prison.
No.
But yeah, that's when I tapped out on that. So like the point I was trying to make was like, we only got dramas now. We don't really got too many family oriented, like Black family sitcoms now, like you had back in the day with like we were talking about Fresh Prince and My Wife and Kids and Sanford and Son and Good Times and stuff like. We don't have those kind of shows. We only got the shows that's, you know, dealing with drugs and money, you know, people dealing in the streets. Like we only got those shows like Snowfall. Those we only got. Today's generation only has those kind of shows that deal with the Black struggle and trying to get that money any way that you can. Like, I think we got to get back to, and I think we're in the right direction. You have Blackish. I don't think it's still on now, but you have Abbott Elementary that even though it's not family oriented, it's like it gives you that you can laugh and be relatable to where like. And show that education, even though it's centered around school, it can still be funny. You know what I mean? So like, but I think we need to get back to more of the family oriented or the successful Black TV sitcoms, because these kids, they ain't got nothing to lean on and they're not gonna go back and watch the old ones. So
no, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, you ask a kid about anything going back 10 years and they just going to look at you in disgust.
Nothing existed past 10 years.
When I tell you that these kids are surprised that I think it's gotten so bad now. I think that's why the music sucks, because now 90s producers can use 4-loop bars. I mean, these producers can use 4-loop bars or something that was done in the 90s and 2000s and get away with it. And the kids is like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, I heard that when I was in high school. I remember that dude DJ Nasty had that song High or whatever, and people thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm like, bro, that is the opening intro to Escape's version of Who Can I Run To, and that's not even original, because the original version of Who Can I Run To was done by the Jones Girls. Shouts out to Detroit, the Jones Girls in the 1970s.
I was just about to say the songs from the 90s are covers. Like,
most of them are, man.
Those aren't even originals.
Yeah.
And then and they're recreating them, and you don't even realize that these aren't original. That the thing that they're covering isn't even the original of an original song.
Exactly. It's a mess.
Yeah, what I was gonna say was like, as long as these shows are funny, you got me, man. Like, give me a good plot and make me laugh, I will watch it. But like, if you're going on all this drama stuff, man, like after a while it kind of gets boring and reductive to me. Like, a lot of people like reality TV shows where like they're always fighting and cussing and this manufactured drama. You can tell it's not real. I can't get down with that. Like, Love and Hip Hop, like for a while I really liked it, but after a while it was like, okay, like how many episodes can you have of one ex fighting another ex and it goes on for like 3 episodes? Yeah, I'm kind of tired of that. But I guess the people ain't into the Tyler Perry manufactured dramas either, so I guess we got to wait it out.
Shout out House of Pain. The first couple seasons of House of Pain were pretty good. But
I don't know about that. I'm biased. I grew up on Tyler Perry. Like if I go upstairs right now, I could pull up all of his DVDs from his plays and movies. So I grew up on Tyler Perry. When he went into the drama space, that's when I kind of got off the boat. I was good with his comedies, and even Medea got stale to me after a while. But I grew up on his plays and his movies. But the bag he in now, I can't really get with it. So you don't like Medea's Halloween?
I thought about seeing that just because I wanted to see what it was, but I can't remember the last
Halloween.
So what?
It was what?
Halloween.
Hello.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll go
I
to
think
bat and say that Tyler Perry was funny. In the beginning, I really liked Tyler Perry and his plays and his movies, and I liked House of Pain in the beginning. Once they got into the more drama-filled episodes of House of Pain, I kind of got off the boat. But when it was and I hate to say it like this, but when Janine was going through what Janine was going through, that's when it was at its best. Like, but I go to bat and say that Tyler Perry is somebody that should be admired, somebody that has worked his way up from the bottom. I know he gets a lot of flack, like a lot of guys back then did, wearing dresses and stuff like that. But like, bro, he's making a living for himself. And just look what he's doing for other people. You know, look at what he's done for the city of Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, like teaching people the power of ownership, and that you can come from nothing and gain everything and then spread it amongst our people. You know what I mean? So even though I wouldn't put House of Pain in my top 5 sitcoms, he deserves his love and flowers for all the great work that he's done. So
yeah, but Tyler Perry needs to hire some writers to write his stuff
Yes.
because like he can't be the sole proprietor of that enterprise because
Exactly.
it needs some little bit of creativity.
It shows.
Yeah, it shows a lot. Yeah, it shows a whole lot. But we're gonna end it right there, and I'm gonna say the thing at the end of the show we always say to promote our brand and how you folks can help us out. You can become a level 1, level 2, or level 3 member for $4.99. Level 4 member for $4, like the 4 Horsemen.
The commitment, the symbol of excellence.
Yes. Yeah, for $4.99 a month. Support our efforts to pay Jared Hoffman's exorbitant salary that Ken Rashad don't want to pay. He's not here, by the way. We got good reason. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but also follow our work on social media. We're on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're waiting for that Stan Becton TikTok, Ken Rashad. The streets want it. They need that Stan Becton take you got, man. So put it up. Mm-hmm. Look out for it. It's going to be there pretty soon. I guarantee it. You follow up our work on our website. We got stories up there every single day you can read. We got some today about football, about what coaches are saying, about who can be in the running for the Deacon Jones Award. We got all of it covered. We got picks, not gambling picks, but like regular, wholesome picks for this weekend's football games. And we'll have football coverage for you all throughout the week and the weekend. So stick with us, folks. I'm Kendrick. That's Chris. That's Jared Hoffman. See you next week.